Risen 2 is the sequel to, well, Risen of course, but this one seems to have its own little title, Risen 2 Dark Waters, which came out in 2012 on Windows, PS3, and Xbox 360. But once again, Wizard Box did the port of the console release, but this time they managed to do a much more decent job than what they did on the first game. The graphics aren't too bad from the whole Risen 1 thing when it comes to the porting itself. And for whatever reason, the PS3 version seems to have scored the lowest. It's like the lowest score of all everything. But the game was once again published by Deep Silver and developed by Piranha Bytes. But the Japanese version of the game was published by Ubisoft of all things. So just like everything else, it's a RPG title, an action one. But this time, the game's setting takes around pirates. Yeah, you heard that one correct. Even though you're still playing as whatever his name is, it's the same guy. It'll probably take you guys a while to realize that's him, because they mentioned the whole Titan Lords thing from the first game, which did in fact happen. So, here's the weird thing. The game pretty much was riddled with some bugs and glitches, but the PC version, from what I can tell, got patched. Because, here's a weird thing. There was a lack of a dodge button or dodge or whatever in this one, but if you play the PC version, they seem to have added in the patch, but the console version never added that. And that's the thing too. Whenever you're fighting, either you're getting exploited by enemies with spam attacks, or you're doing the same thing to them, so it just makes the combat in this game just feel unplayable. This is just something I want to get out of the way real quick, because the combat was such a more annoying factor of the game, and it feels like a total downgrade if you ask me, unless you're going to be playing on the PC version, which again, I have no idea why there was no dodging in this one. You can't tell me otherwise, because the third game on console managed to bring it back. But, you know, they couldn't patch it in on the console version for whatever reason being. But, let's just talk about the game itself. But like I said, you're playing as whatever his name is, and you're an Inquisition spy. And you have a choice between joining the pirates, which you have to do in order to progress through the game, or join the Inquisition. Even though you're a spy, they still give you the option regardless, which makes no sense to me whatsoever. And it's just, something doesn't add up, because some parts of the game feels like they've been rushed. I feel like the blame is on the publisher at this point. Oh, and in case you guys are one of those people that wants to play the game for the magic or be mage, well, there is no magic. There's voodoo magic, but you're not going to be casting spells or anything. But there are these cursed dolls they can use. There's no mana in the game, so that's like another thing that'll probably disappoint you guys in case you guys want to play mage in terms of how the first game was played. Oh, and you want to hear this? They banished the mages. Yeah, I'm not kidding when I say this. They banished the mages in this one. I'm not making this up. They even said it themselves in the game itself. And instead of leveling up, you're more like spending glory points on stats, like blades, guns, toughness, and whatever else. They're supposed to help you in terms of your attributes, but you can increase some of your attributes by pretty much collecting some accessories like earrings, amulets, and rings. Yeah, that's basically it. But there are these legendary items you can find, which are riddled with hints. And when you do that, you can pretty much gain more, well, skill experience. I only say skill experience because of the stats. And that's basically what this pretty much is. Now, I should mention this is the first game in Piranha Bytes that uses guns. Yeah, as I said, the game uses guns, but you can use like a handgun, or like maybe a shotgun, or one of those long rifle weapons to your advantage if you really need to. And you can also hunt down treasure by finding treasure maps. You can dig them up and whatever, but there's treasure chests all over the place where you can get them free loot, or you're gonna need to try to lockpick your way into it. But like I said, you're gonna need to start learning yourself some stuff. Now, in terms of the skill-based, however, it's like once again quite similar to the whole previous Gacha games in Risen 1, but it's a slightly different. Even though you're still spending gold, you need certain attributes in order for yourself to pretty much learn these things. So once you keep increasing your stats in terms of like thieves or maybe just blades and whatever, then you'll be able to learn how to handle the game better in terms of combat and more. Like different weapon types having like their own different ways of fighting, or you know, whatever. Like every fighting style. And here's the funny thing, right? In order to parry, it's not like the opposite button. Like in the first game, I was able to get through it. You press the A button to attack, and you press the Y button to parry, or maybe like counter the attack. But guess what? They put attack and parry on the same button. I'm not making this up. You can even travel to different places of the island, but you can only do it by boat. It's not like you travel through boat, it's just you teleport or whatever. In terms of islands, you can fast travel. You don't need any teleportation stones like you did in Gacha games or Risen 1 to be specific with you guys. And finding armor sets, or so-called armor sets, it can be a little difficult. And even then, it kind of feels useless without you trying to boost up your skills. And it could take you a while for your skills to boost up a bit. So here's the little thing you should know. When you're part of the Inquisition, well, there was a Kraken that pretty much keeps on destroying ships, and it's your job to stop the Kraken, which turned out to be controlled by a villain named Mara, and it's your job to take her down. And you need the 4 key items in order to fight her. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You're gonna need like a weapon, an amulet, and whatever. But don't worry, you do got some returning characters from the original, but not by much. There is the Air Temple DLC and Treasure Isle DLC, which I heard they got locked on disc, even though, you know, I feel like they should have been on a, I mean, you know what, no. I know what it is. I feel like they were going to put it in the base game, but Deep Silver said no and made a DLC. There's also Pirate's Clothing, which gives you the armor set pretty early in the game, and that's pretty much about it. Oh, and the armor set stuff, that will go on to happen in the 3rd game as well, which is quite funny if you ask me. Now look, the version I was playing was based on the Xbox 360 version, just to be specific. And that's why I went on this long rant about the console version, not having the roll, dodge, and whatever. Well, that's because this game is backwards compatible on the Xbox One and Xbox Series. But I think you guys can also play this on the PS4, PS5, PlayStation Premium on the PS3 streaming, if I'm not mistaken. Because I do recall seeing it. It's just a shame that we haven't got like a remastered version of this game, so that way some of the core mechanics can be improved upon, like how Risen 1 did with its graphics and thumb sensitivity of the camera, which pretty much improved on the Xbox 360 port, which is something I should go on to mention. Seriously, the camera was super sensitive in the first game, like I mentioned, and the second game managed to fix it, only for the 3rd game to go back to being super sensitive. But you do have the option to fix it, at least. Oh, and I know I was talking about the Kraken. Don't get me started in that fight. It's like one of the worst I've ever been a part of. I know some people might be turned off by this whole pirate thing of this game, but believe it or not, the pirates pretty much existed in the first game, so it kind of makes sense, but not really makes sense in terms of the characters changes and whatever. And yeah, you're gonna probably be seeing it in the rest of the Risen series. Oh, and here's a cool part, right? You can actually have a companion with you if you really want to, which I really highly recommend you do so. But just be aware, they're not going to be with you all the time, because there's some parts of the game where they force you to go alone, so keep that in mind. Oh, and I find the AI in this completely useless sometimes, because they follow you whenever they feel like it. I never mentioned this, but I had the same issue when it came to Gothic 1. Because I had someone like, hey, come with me, dude. I'll be like, okay, and then they don't follow me at all or whatever. So, yeah. I think this pretty much proved one of the reviewers' points from Elix 2 when it came to the game having the same issues from Piranha Bytes like all the time. Yeah. Isn't that pretty ironic? Now, look, I did say before that there were some bugs and glitches, and I did pretty much encounter some of them in the game. Some enemies got stuck in the air for some weird reason, and it's got some stuck in some certain spots. There wasn't that much to say about the bugs, but it was just funny to look at. I was like, the game says, you're under attack. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm under attack. No one's around me. And then all of a sudden there's an enemy like above me for some dumb reason. Like I said, I feel like this is just rushed, but if you guys are going to play Risen 3 on like your PlayStation 4s or PC and whatever, then pretty much from what I've played so far, it's pretty much improved in terms of the combat and whatever, so I'll get around to doing that one at some point. But if you guys have like maybe 25 to 30 hours to spare, then definitely this will give you a lot to do depending on what quests you'll probably play, and that's pretty much about it. But yeah, you're gonna need to try to train yourself to get better at the game and whatnot. And no, I don't think rolling or dodging is part of the training thing. It was always there by default whenever I experienced the games. But I'll just leave it up to you if you think that Risen 2 is worth it, but definitely play on PC just for the best experience.